Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano, Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Saturday, December 3rd. Andrew, best race, I think, of the weekend in the entire country. Delmar race 7. It's the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby. It's a mile and 1/8 on the turf for 3-year-olds. I kind of think you can say this is a poor man's Breeders' Cup race. It's a field of 12. And one of the 3 Chad Brown horses in here, Camelot Kitten, the 2-horse, is your 7-2 morning line favorite. It's Chad Brown and this guy named Irad Ortiz. Last time I checked, they make a pretty formidable couple when it comes to running long on the turf. Here's my thoughts on Camelot Kitten. Thorn in my side. I read past performance after past performance in races in which this horse is in. And I say to myself every time, there's no way this horse can overcome coming from last. There's no way this horse can overcome lack of pace. And what does this horse do every single time? He comes from almost last. He finds a way to get through. And it doesn't matter if it's a hot pace. And it doesn't matter if it's a slow pace. He's won 2 of his last 3. You could argue he was best September 3rd when he lost to Inspector Lindley by a head. If this horse wins, I don't. I'm hard-headed. I'm stubborn when it comes to this horse. Short price horses coming from the clouds. You can have him, but he'll probably beat me anyway. Nevertheless, Camelot Kitten is the horse to beat, but I'll never play this horse.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as you, Bob. And this horse has obviously left a very bad taste in my mouth since the day we were nosed out of Beach Patrol on Derby Day.
You had to bring that up.
Yeah, I had to. Well, what can you do? But it seems that whenever I'm playing against this horse, somehow it just beats me by a photo finish. And I'm not too keen on the Chad Brown horses in here on a DRF formulated perspective, and I'll break that down a little bit more. Obviously, what Chad Brown always brings in is always the best in the field to a certain extent, but just more specifically on Camelot Kitten, like you said, Bob, coming from the clouds at a very short price off the layoff, and with the record that Chad Brown has shown, on the West Coast, I think it's just a big play against. And with that being said, I definitely think you can find value in this field of 12 outside the Chad Brown horses. And I'm going to go with a horse here that's stepping up, but I think he's really primed and ready for it. And that's number 8, Hayabusa 1 for Grand Motion and Team Valor. This one gets Victor Espinosa as Florent Giroux goes to number 1, Beach Patrol. Watch this last race, the first time stateside at Keeneland. Makes that big, wide, sweeping move that we've seen so often out of Giroux's playbook. But it was just so crisp. You knew the horse wanted to do, no matter what Giroux said, the horse wanted to win this race. Truly believe that. This one gets a 96 buyer on my end, and that's beating out Gio's Calling, Imperia, 2 horses that I have respect from in an allowance-type race. That was a huge race as well. Ever since the races in France, the first-time stakes out on the stateside win, Grand Motion does not really, when he has his horses and he brings them over stateside, usually takes him a race or 2, but this one was primed and ready. I think Motion put him on the shelf, knowing that this was going to be a potential spot because he has been heating up from coast to coast, from New York to Kentucky, all the way out here. Him and Team Valor ran a race on Thanksgiving, and that was Arles, a French import, and they were nosed out by Novo Record, big Japanese horse. So I think the team is just ready and striking, knocking on the door for a big win. I think this is the one. I think this one sits mid-pack, sits that second shelf. We'll get the pace. Not the biggest fan of Espinosa, but my man's been really hot. I mean, top of the standings hot so far, beating out some other big names that we usually see. So I'm hoping that all things go, all cylinders are ready to fire, and we get this one home at a huge price.
There's no question that this horse has every right to improve second off of a long layoff in the second time that this horse has ran in America. And as you have mentioned, and hats off to Grand Motion, he has been outstanding since September, and his month of October was probably better than any trainer in the country. Wanted to talk to you about the pace. I think it's going to be extremely hot, which seems to be the theme of all 4 races that we covered this week on the Tournament Talk show. Free Rose and Blackjack Cat are going to set the world on fire up front early, in my opinion. And I think there are other chasers in this race, such as maybe Defiantly, maybe even Annals of Time. I'm not really sure what they want to do with that horse, whether they want to set him close to the pace or way off of it, which is the other Chad Brown horse that, just happens to have Javier Castellano aboard. Nevertheless, I think this pace is hot. I think the chasers are also going to be compromised. But wanted your thoughts on the pace setup, and do you see yet another blistering pace race here on Tournament Talk?
Yeah, without a doubt. And in my opinion, I don't believe it'll be blistering, but I do think there's going to be a fight for the lead. And Free Rose, man, had this one not be caught up in the pace situation he will be in, I definitely would have made this one my top selection. I'm in love with this horse. Ever since Richard Baltas took this one over and brought him out here, this one's a brand new racehorse. Winning the La Jolla at 29-1, coming back winning the Delmar Derby at 12-1, and just missing out in the Twilight Derby behind a very salty and strong horse, in my opinion, that's really starting to get the click now, Frank Conversation. Definitely would have been leaning toward taking Free Rose, but like you said, I think revved up to 9, another horse you can add to the list. Not sure about Blackjack Cat. I wanted to use that horse for value, and I hope that one was kind of sitting off the pace. I think Beach Patrol goes back to the ways that we thought we would see when we really started analyzing this horse earlier in the year. I think Beach Patrol is going to throw some speed from the rail, but nonetheless, not necessarily a mad dash, but some very talented horses are going to have to make some very difficult decisions figuring out who's going to lead this one around the first turn.
Let's talk about our son, Beach Patrol, a horse that we have picked so many times on the show. I love the horse, period. I mean, I think it's been well documented at this point. He might be my favorite turf horse in the country. He's let me down some, though. He pointed out the biggest letdown at Churchill Downs. But nonetheless, let me give you a stat, Andrew, since you got some Chad Brown stats for me. The one hole at Delmar at this distance are going 2 turns, one for its last 43 attempts. Now, maybe that's just a coincidence, and maybe Beach Patrol, who I think is the most talented horse in this race, with the best turf trainer in the history of our sport, in my opinion, overcome all that. But this horse, in my opinion, wants and is going to have to get to the lead with other speed in the race that I mentioned. I think our boy's just up against it today. I just couldn't believe it going into it, but I'm taking against Beach Patrol here. Your thoughts on the one overall?
Yeah, it's a real shame, and like you said, Bob, I think with that one post, this one has to show speed, and you don't want to be too close to it in this spot, and off the layoff as well. I love the horse, Bob. We have very similar feelings on this horse, but just to play against me today, and it's a very interesting statistic, like you brought up, with the Delmar one post, quite similar to Santa Anita going down the hill with the one post. There's something in the California grass. What can I say, Bob? But the statistic I was going to bring up here is Chad Brown shipping into California past 5 years, 58 starts, only 6 wins. Now, within those 6 wins, 5 of those wins coming within the Breeders' Cup.
At Santa Anita, not even at this racetrack, correct?
No, and that's all California. That's all California tracks, Santa Anita and Delmar included. That's just shipping to California. That's how crazy the statistic is. 6 wins, 5 of those wins coming within Breeders' Cup races. Not sure how confident I am in that, with only 1 win out of the 58 starts, has come from a regular stakes race. So definitely a big play against me on the Chad Brown shipping angle.
Now, I want to stick to Chad Brown. Now, obviously, you're on the record at this point. You don't like any of them. Annals of Time, and I mentioned this a little bit ago. Andrew, I know Javier's aboard here, and he sees fit to fly all the way out to California from New York. And by the way, skip claiming Crown Day, which I don't think he's ever done, to get on this horse. I think this is the worst of the 3 horses. Again, in quotations, worst of the 3 horses. Out of all the 3, I give this horse the least chance to win the race.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, I watched this one's debut November 28th, 2015. To me, it really wasn't that impressive. Granted, this one really wasn't like bet heavy as you would see a Chad Brown first-time starter going along on the grass, especially at Aqueduct.
Right.
But I thought the horse was very green and just beat a bad group that day. Now, I think, I had the winner. I think that was the day I had hockey school on September 3rd. And yes, this horse was coming up late as well. And I thought he had every reason to win that grade 3 race last time out. And he just looked very green. And I'm going to have to play off that last performance right then and there.
Yeah, I picked Annals of Time in my tournament that day, but just because second off the layoff, and I just thought, why would Chad have this horse in the race? And you're right. I mean,
And that's an angle you got to play. That's an angle you got to play there at a price like that, second off the layup, 100%.
Absolutely. And I watched the replay a couple of times after the weekend was over and just didn't like what I saw. And now the horse ships drawn outside. And look, the horse wants to be close to the lead. Doesn't need the lead, but wants to be close. So we're talking hot pace, in my opinion, and the horse is going to be drawn outside and needs to get position early. And if not, the horse is going to have to do something he's never done before, and that's come from way out of it. I just don't like the horse. Any other horses from a price play perspective that you like before I go on with my top selection?
Without a doubt, I really like Blackjack Cat. Want to get this one involved? You're saying he's going to be on the very front end.
So, Andrew. Yeah,
I think Mike Smith will read the form and sit him back. Similar. Now Then this horse won't close from the clouds. This one's definitely going to be up. I don't think he'll be the pace setter. And I don't think necessarily he'll be battling for the pace setter. I think he just sits a length or two off, and Mike Smith sees what he has late. I like it when he teams up with Mark Glatt. Blinkers off here. I think that will kind of better the horse, and allow him to just settle down. So hopefully, we're kind of reading a little bit different on the horse. No doubt he'll be on the front end. I don't think he'll really be battling for the pace. But I like number 7, Blackjack Cat. I thought Isotherm was interesting to hit the board. Now, George Weaver shipping out all the way over here with Johnny Velasquez. Interesting. If you really throw out the soft turf course of Belmont on October 23rd, I mean, he hasn't really ran a bad race. Now you're getting 12 to 1 on him. Now, I honestly don't think he can win this race. I think it's just a little too far-fetched. I might want to get him involved, though, at a big price. That was a horse I was going to ask you about later.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where, you brought up earlier on one of the other segments that with the 13 horse at Gulfstream, that the race is going to have to completely fall apart. And that's the only way the Isotherm is going to win the race. And I think that there's too many. And look, Andrew, I don't throw the word elite around a lot, but there's some borderline elite turf horses in this race, okay? And I just think that there's too many really good horses, let's go that avenue, that are going to be forwardly placed or have a tactical edge on Isotherm. He's a plotter, and he needs everything to fall apart, and he's up against it way too much here. Now, look, that's no knock on Isotherm. I think Isotherm is a solid turf horse who, on a random weekend at Delmar or Santa Anita against what I have typically said has been mediocre competition, I think the horse could be a player. Now, kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here, I'm actually going to take a California turf horse here. Again, going into this race, I looked at the past performances on Wednesday, and I said to myself, well, I'm going to take Beach Patrol. It's just I don't even know why I'm reading this race. And then I looked at the one-hole stats. And then you and I talked offline about Chad Brown's record, traveling out west. I think there's a hot pace. I think Beach Patrol is going to be a part of that, or at least chase that. And then I started looking at these other horses, Andrew, and I don't like Camelot Kitten. I think Annals of Time is the worst of the 3. I think Blackjack Cat's going to be a part of that pace. We're also in agreement with Free Rose. And I couldn't get past Frank Conversation's last race, second off the layoff in a grade 2, in which this horse won at 36 to 1 from 4 3/4 lengths off the lead. I loved his middle move. I loved how this horse finished. And he comes up with a 119 time form US speed figure, which, all in all, Andrew, is only one tick off the fastest race, according to time form, by any horse that has been running this race, which I believe is Beach Patrol. He's going to get the pace. Doug O'Neill's been hot over the last 36 days, and I'm willing to take a shot here. And furthermore, Chad Brown's horses, and understandably so, are all going to take money. I wouldn't be surprised if Beach Patrol doesn't end up going off the favorite. He may not, but one of those two, either Camelot Kitten or Beach Patrol, are going to go off the favorite. There's 0% chance that you're going to get Annals of Time at 6 to 1. That means Frank Conversation, a horse that has certainly been facing less competition than the 3 Brown horses have been facing, but ran a stellar race last time out, may go off an overlay. Doug O'Neill's strength is not turf. I'll be the first to admit that to you. He's had a subpar year for his standards. I'll be the first to admit that to you. But there's no way anyone can take away that horse's last performance, and now he's still in form, according to the book. Third off the leg, gets pace. I think he'll be an overlay. I'm going to take a shot. Frank Conversation, the 3 horse.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bob. And, I took a long look at this horse as well. Let's break it down back from, earlier this year during the wintertime. This horse is running on synthetic, and I mean, he's really just crushing groups. You see that low sal futurity. I think they were trying to point him, see how far they can get him, deep into a Triple Crown race maybe. This is back in last winter. Doesn't like it, runs behind more Spirit and Taze on Ice, who, are two very strong backward horses. Moving back up, they send the horse to Dubai, runs however best he can. I'm not sure what you want me to really say about that race.
Shouldn't be on the dirt.
Exactly. But comes back on the American turf. We talk so much more about how, unless your name is Frosted, a race in Dubai and then coming quickly back into America within 3 months, you're not going to run too well.
Nope.
Then they sit him on the bench for, let's say, 5 months. He comes back, faces older. He has an inside trip on a dead rail day and simply gives up halfway into it because they know there's not much left. Gets a perfect draw. Not really a perfect draw, but gets a perfect trip on that November 4th, like you said, and rallies like a champion. It was probably one of the best. You could give me any price on this horse. I would have took above 36 to 1 on this horse turning for home. I thought he was dead for sure, but a new racehorse came out, and he really closed like a champion. I think Frank Conversation is starting to get back into this form cycle that we were seeing earlier in his career. So definitely getting above 8 to 1. Definitely. I'm thinking you're getting 12 to 1 for sure.
And let me piggyback off what you just said about October 8th off that 5-month layoff. This horse loses to Vijay, who has found himself on the turf, and loses to Own, who's run how many triple-digit Beyer speed figures in a row? Probably 6 or 7. And not to mention who ran third in that race. Oh, a horse by the name of Obviously, who didn't do anything but win a Breeders' Cup race a few weeks back. Look, Andrew, I think this horse is being disrespected. I get it, though, because of the brown horses. And I know we keep going back to Chad, but when you bring 3 horses out west and put them in the same race, you got to talk about it.
Exactly.
I think I might be onto something here. If you look at all these this horse's races on synthetic or on the turf surface, outside of the 5-month layoff and coming back from Dubai, which we both admit are legitimate excuses, you can't disagree that this horse has ran bang-up races on the lawn.
Without a doubt. And, to point out, that 94 Beyer is only, 2 points less than Camelot Kitten's win last out. So, I mean, here's Camelot Kitten, who's in a great stakes race every single time and comes from the best turf barn in America, ridden by what arguably is, the best turf jockey in America, with Chad Brown, I guess. Yeah. And he's only 2 points less, and he's, Mario Gutierrez is riding for Doug O'Neill, whose talent isn't even in the turf. So I think you're onto something here, like you said. I think 8 to 1 would be a joke because I think you're getting way above it. I think you're getting 12 to 1, something like that. So I'm hoping, I'm going to play around 3, 7, 8. I think that's what I'm going to roll with and box those up. Maybe throw on all the Chad Browns. Maybe if one of them hits the board, what does the trifecta pay? Are you kidding me? Yeah. So I'm on the 8. I'm definitely going to throw Frank Conversation all my tickets.
So, Andrew, one more time. I know you just mentioned it, but give us the horse's name.
Yeah, and that's number 8, Hayabusa 1.
And I'm on the 3-horse Frank Conversation. Andrew Calvano and I are both trying to beat our boy Chad Brown traveling out west. That'll do it for race 7 at Delmar for Saturday, December 3rd. It's the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby. And, Andrew, it is going to be a fantastic one. Andrew Calvano, Bobby Shoemaker. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. And as always, good luck.
Good luck, guys.